Welcome to the Writing Corner with Authors Alcove. I am your host, Agnes Wolf, and today I have Mark Stevens. He is the author of The Fireballer, a poignant and powerful novel that explores the intricate journey of a gifted baseball player seeking redemption and peace. With a background as diverse as writing, Mark has worked as a reporter, television news producer, and in public relations. He's also the author of the Allison Coyle Mystery Series and has been recognized as Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers Writer of the Year. Was it last year or this year?
Well, it was 2024 is the official year, and I was also named the same thing in 2016. So it was a double honor. Very honored by that.
That is so awesome. Well, today we'll be dive into his writing process, the ups and downs of his career, and the craft of storytelling. So welcome, Mark. How are you today?
I am doing great. Thanks a million for having me on.
Do you mind just giving me a little background of your history and what got you into the writing world?
Sure, love to. So one of the main things to know about me is I'm the son of two librarians. So if you could imagine growing up in a world of books and information, grew up outside Boston and just had two parents who devoured books. My mother in particular was a big fiction reader, and I developed a love for fiction early on and reading. It really seemed to carry over as I grew up and got into a career as a journalist myself. In the back of my head, I kind of always thought, well, it might be interesting to try to write something like this. But at first, I was only really reading kind of the big, heavy, straight up American novels and things like that. And then in the early 1980s, somebody handed me a mystery. A good friend of mine handed me my first mystery novel. Probably it might have been a Patricia Highsmith book or James M. Cain or Elmore Leonard. I can't really remember for sure, but some spark went off in my head. And I thought, wow, this is a form I think I can maybe try to emulate or try to go in there and see if I can pull a story together that's in a mystery format. And so I started in. It was the mid 1980s. It took me a long time to get published, but I started practicing.
That's awesome. And so now you have the Fireballer, which is the one where you got Writer of the Year this past year, right?
Well, they give the Rocky
Or
Mountain
this year?
fiction writers, yeah, they give it for a lot of different reasons. It's not necessarily for just having a book out that did really well, although the Fireballer is doing very, very well. They give it for a lot of reasons having to do with just your support of the organization, things like that. But yeah, the Fireballer got me the honor this year, and in 2016, it was the third book in my mystery series, a novel called Trapline, which won the Colorado Book Award and also won an award from the Colorado Authors League. And so that put me on the map back in 2016. And this latest honor is uh, primarily due to the Fireballer. And they're about to announce, by the way, Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, which is a fantastic organization. It was key to my success in terms of just getting me going early on. Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers is about to announce the new Writer of the Year at the end of the month here in July of 2024. So it won't be me.
So what inspired you to write this particular novel, The Fireballer?
The Fireballer, actually, after so many years of writing mysteries, a friend actually suggested half of the idea to me. I don't really take friends' suggestions. I think every author gets people who come up to them and say, "Hey, I've got an idea for you," and things like that. And I've heard those ideas over the years, and I just want to say to those people, "Well, go write that book." You need to, as a writer, you have to be interested, I think, in the topic in order to pull it off. But in this case, a friend of mine, a long, long time friend of mine, said, you should write a book about a pitcher in the major leagues who ruins the sport of baseball. And that was his hook. And I said, what do you mean? And he basically explained that if we get a pitcher who throws just a bit faster than they're pitching today, by 5 or 6 miles an hour faster than the fastest pitch can be thrown today, the sport is ruined by the fact that the ball will arrive at home plate faster than a batter has time to swing. So it's a real existential question about what will happen to the sport if we get a pitcher who is really, throwing fireballs and they're so fast that there's nobody can get a bat around and hit the ball. Well, that was one half of the story, and I think my writer brain just started kind of percolating on that idea. And later that same day at night, I remember just coming up with the idea, well, what if that same pitcher was involved in a really traumatic incident as a little leaguer? And the whole book kind of came together for me in terms of character and idea. And I I immediately contacted the guy who gave me the first half of the book and I explained what I had in mind. He said, "Boy, that really makes it a rich book, a rich story." And I called my agent, talked with him, explained what I wanted to do. And he also thought it was a terrific idea. And off I went writing my first non-mystery, which was, to say the least, scary.
So Frank Ryder is the main character, right? Oh,
Yes.
do you mind just kind of describing like who that character is and maybe the journey that he goes on without giving any spoilers away?
Yeah. Like I said, traumatic incident as a little leaguer. He grew up outside Atlanta. The incident happened in suburban Atlanta. And he's a kid with a twin brother. His twin brother was the catcher on the day he threw the pitch, which led to this traumatic incident. Um, and he goes on to, after what happens in Atlanta, his parents decide after a few months to move the family out of state because they want to give Frank, their oldest son, not their oldest son, the twin brother to Josh, they want to give him a fresh start in a fresh town. And so they moved to Denver. And he goes through high school just kind of with his head down. His parents won't let him pitch. He can do sports, but not team sports. He's sort of limited, but in the back of his mind, he's always wanted to pitch baseball. Is his favorite thing. And one day at high school, he, for the first time, lets on to his fellow classmates that he actually is really good at what he does. And his parents relent and he gets put on the baseball team. He goes on to do really well with his high school baseball team, his college baseball team, his Metro State University in Denver. He's the number one draft pick in the country because of how fast he can throw the ball. And he gets selected by the Baltimore Orioles as their pitcher. So when the story starts, we're really picking up his first season, which he immediately goes to the major leagues. But his family's in Denver. He's in Baltimore. His girlfriend's in Denver. He's sort of, rookie on in a big league town, a big league team, and just sort of feeling kind of, I mean, the whole country is focused on every pitch he throws. He's a national sensation and the talk of the country in terms of professional sports, but he's very much alone and very much a loner and trying to find his way.
And because of his tragic past, there's themes of guilt and reconciliation. How did you approach writing such deep and emotional topics?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? How do you capture that on the page? And that, you know, I'm a big believer in the fact that emotion pretty much drives all good books, that emotion is what makes us do anything. Emotion is what creates and puts plots in motion. Emotion, right? The word motion is right in there. So, um, I'm not, all I can say is I think that it's really important when you approach things like that to sort of turn up your empathy dial and really just try to be as empathetic with folks who, you've probably seen or had friends who've gone through trying experiences that are like that, and to try to dial in what might be going through their heads and think about what they have gone through. And of course, you have your own experiences at times to tap into to the extent you can. I mean, I know I haven't ever done anything like what Frank did, but I also know that there are plenty of, unfortunately, and in a very busy world like we're in with accidents happening all the time, there are people whose sheer existence, the fact that you go out and do something in this world, even if it's an innocent trip to the grocery store to pick up a gallon of milk, might end up causing a life to be severely uh, damaged, taken. There might be a moment that's completely innocent and unintended, but that causes something that is a day you're never going to forget for the rest of your life. So there are books, there are lots of things you can read about grief and living with guilt, living with loss, living with your own existence in terms of trying to reconcile that. And so, I mean, I do what I do with anything else. I go read, I go ponder, try to capture other people who've been through it, and just do the research, do the work.
In your writing career, what has been some of the biggest challenges that you face as a writer, that you've learned to overcome?
Well, I think I think if I had to, I mean, I think there are a lot of things on craft side of things that I've continued to learn in terms of trying to get better at my craft, trying to get better at my ability to either set a scene, tell one chapter well, to put one paragraph together in a really interesting way. Um, but I think on the career side, the one thing that um, I really think is so important with writers, and I wish I could just sprinkle fairy dust on all writers and just have them never fret again, is patience. It's got to be the toughest. I don't know if it's the toughest. I shouldn't say that. I'm sure other worlds are equally difficult. Maybe the music business or the acting business or any other form of art. Visual art is probably really tough. So is acting, things like that. But writing is just, the publishing business is so slow. The publishing world just takes its sweet time. If you're going independent, if you're going to self-publish, of course, you're in control. Um, but if you are interested in working with the traditional publishers, which I was early on, it took me about over 20 years to get published. And then I got published by a very small publisher in the end, but then it kind of, I mean, I could go into the back and forth and all the little hiccups and all the uh, different times I got sort of set back. But in the end, looking back, I'm very glad I just sort of took a patient approach and just continued to write. And that was the advice then. I think it's the advice now, which is just keep writing, just keep working, just keep getting better at it. And you do get better. Every writer says that, so it must be true. You do get better especially if you care. Like, what didn't work about that book? What didn't work about that scene? How can I improve it?
So, one of the things that I found interesting that you said is that we should treat our writing like a career, even if it's not. Can you elaborate on this mindset and
Well,
how
I
it's
think, yeah. Um, I think if you were day one on a new job, or if you were approaching, let's say, running your own company, that's probably a better analogy. Let's say you started your own company for whatever it might be, cleaning windows. Let's say you wanted to clean windows, and that was going to be your job. You would get up, and every day I think you'd find better ways to clean windows, faster ways to clean windows. You'd really focus on marketing in your area. You'd look for more clients. You'd look for a network. You'd look for all the different techniques and tools and things you need to be better at your job. And you would treat it like it mattered because the end of the day, you're putting food on the table for yourself, for your family, you're paying for your roof over your head, and you take it seriously. You really get up and every day, every week, you adjust your plan. If something's not working, you go into your thought process or you go to your actual business plan on paper and you say, what's not working? Well, I think with writing, a lot of writers I know, they say, yeah, they get up and they write for an hour every day, or they find a weekend here and a weekend there to write. Um, but I think it's the whole ball of wax. It's not just putting words down. It's building your network. Even if you're years from being unpublished, it's never too early to build your network. It's never too early to get out there and say, go to every book reading in within driving distance. If some author is coming through a bookstore or doing a talk at a library, go support them. Go watch and observe how a published author goes about their presentations. It's never too early to start reviewing books. Um, Getting online and putting your thoughts together, write a paragraph about a book you just read and post that. You could also reach out if you finished a book and the author is not Stephen King, but somebody who might reply, somebody who's local and wrote a book. Write to that author and say, I enjoyed your book. Could we get coffee? Could we chat about writing? Could you help me? I'm writing a novel that's similar, or things like that. There are a lot of things you can do online and in your community to begin to act and be present in the community as a writer, even if you're not published. And um, then on the writing side, just the sheer business of putting words together, you would you would look at a scene you might have finished that morning and then wait a day or two, read it back to yourself, and then say, what doesn't quite work? And you would get feedback. You'd send it to a few friends and say, here's a scene I wrote today. Does this make sense to you? And get feedback and then apply that feedback to what you're writing. Take it seriously. Take it as seriously as if putting food on the table depends on getting better at all aspects of the business.
I love that so much. And I actually was going to ask you some questions about, building that writing community and supporting, local authors and stuff like that. And like, because that is something that you strongly believe in, is building a network of writer friends. How has that impacted you? And do you have anybody that you guys are like writing accountability partners or anything like that?
No straight up writing accountability partners. I have several who I can turn to and ask if something's working. But that's what conferences are for. That's what online is for, is reaching out. I have several friends around the country who I've yet to meet in person, but they're such good friends online that we know each other. We know how we think. Um, it just on that writing level, we really connect and we help each other with blurbs, with connections. Um, all my writing success is attributable straight back to joining a writing organization. Actually, I'm a member of Rocky Mountain Fiction Writers, like I mentioned, Mystery Writers of America. Therefore, I'm part of the local chapter of Mystery Writers of America. In Southwest Colorado, we've really pumped a lot of life into a group down here called Four Corners Writers. So I'm constantly trying to network. And the fact that I even have a terrific agent, Josh Getzler, is directly a result of one of my friends making an introduction to me 6, 7 years ago now. And just, I mean, not like a quid pro quo kind of introduction, or I didn't go to her and say, could you please get me this introduction? It was just such a strong relationship that she mentioned my career to this agency and I got picked up. It was not like a moment of desperation or anything, or it just sort of naturally evolved. And that's what you want to get to, that comfort level where you're involved in these groups where just what we normally do in most communities. We help each other. That's the definition of community, isn't it? That you're there for each other, whether it's some little neighborhood chore that you can help a neighbor with, watch my dogs. I mean, but in the writing community, you help each other when you need it. So, friends.
So do you have anything coming up right now that you're currently working on?
Well, just to break a little bit of news here, last week I signed a 2-book deal with Thomas and Mercer. This is the first time I've mentioned it publicly. The news will be out shortly, but the contract is signed. I've got a thriller coming out next spring.
Exciting. By the time this
Yeah,
comes out, you'll probably have officially announced it. So that's awesome.
yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. I'm really excited, and this is a book that has been um, around for a while and hasn't been to a lot of editors. It's a longer story, but my agent found a great home for it, and when the editor read it and decided she wanted a sequel, I had to go back into the first book and set it up so it works for a sequel. So now I'm working on the sequel, and it's due very soon. So
That
working on that.
is that is so exciting.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you so much for being on my podcast. I do want to ask you one more question, and it's the question I ask everybody, or at least a variation of it. From writing the first words or the first idea of your first book to now, what is something that you have learned that would help not yet published authors?
My general answer on this, and it hasn't changed in a while, is there is no shortage of writing advice out there, right? It is just all over the place. There are books, there are blogs, there's magazines, there's newsletters. There's an avalanche of writing advice. And I really encourage all writers to go out there and consume as much as you can. And that sounds kind of crazy, but the next part of it is only listen to the advice that makes sense and reject advice that doesn't make sense. You're going to get lots of contradictory advice, but learn to filter out what really connects with you and really lean into advice that makes sense.
I love that. Thank you so much. And also, I just want to thank my listeners for listening. If you have not already, I strongly encourage you to check out his book, The Fireballer. Also, if you have been listening for a while, I would appreciate if you rated, subscribe, or liked. This not only allows more listeners to listen to my podcast, but also for more readers to find my author's books like Mark's The Fireballer. Again, I had the privilege of talking with Mark Stevens. He is the author of The Fireballer. And what was the mystery series that you worked on?
Well, it's called the Allison Coyle Mystery Series, 5 books in the series.
Awesome. And apparently there's a 2-book series that is going to come out pretty soon as well. So anyway, thank you again, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for joining us at Authors Alcove, the Writing Corner. We hope today's discussion has inspired and informed your writing journey. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more writers like you. And remember, we are brought to you today by the letter K, as in Knowadays, K-N-O-W, knowadays.com, a company that offers many courses from how to become a freelance writer to how to become a proofreader and editor. Also, I'm always appreciative of any of you who support me on Patreon. You can find the links in the show notes. Also, you can check out me at Authors Alcove, the Healing Place, where authors share about their books on healing and recovery. You can also find me at the Authors Alcove, the Reading Nook, where we talk about reading fantasy, sci-fi, and the occasional horror. Until next time, keep writing, keep creating, and we'll see you back in the Writing Corner.